Good morning, everyone. It's 9 a.m. here in Toronto. We have another day for the live show for the Security Awareness Month for month of October. I have a pleasure today to have Mike. Mike, we know each other for like 15 years. We work together for a very, very long time. So very, very happy to have you here today. Mike, can you please tell us about yourself?
Hey, thanks, Evgeny. And first of all, love the intro music. I was grooving. Yeah, getting us in the zone. I like it. I'm super excited to be here. I have actually, as I was mentioning to you, I've never done a LinkedIn Live. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to join you on your show. Yeah, as you mentioned, you and I have known each other a very long time. My name is Michael Brameld. I currently am a major account manager for the world's largest cybersecurity company called Palo Alto Networks. I spent my entire career in cybersecurity over the last 22 years, always here in Toronto, and always taking care of major enterprise accounts, helping them solve their cybersecurity challenges and facilitate the products and services that'll help them to mitigate those risks.
Nice. By the way, it's not only live on LinkedIn, it's also live on Facebook, YouTube, and
Oh,
Twitch. Yeah, so somebody may be watching you right now and you don't know about it.
very cool.
And today's topic, we will talk about our journey in cyber. And you mentioned Palo Alto. You probably remember back in Young One, or the Harjava group was still in Young One, Palo Alto came and say, oh, we've been here for a year and a half, and we did everything, firewall, IPS, URL filtering from scratch. And we're like, no way, it's impossible. Nobody is able to do it in a year and a half. And then a couple of years after, it was the realization
Yeah.
how well they did and what they did. So it was quite incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it's amazing too, because there are so many iterations of that, right? Over the years where we've seen technology, new pieces of technology come. And in the beginning, I mean, we kind of refer that as something that's disruptive, a disruptive piece of technology. And I find that there's more iterations of that as we go through time. But in the beginning, there just wasn't that many products. There wasn't that many pieces of technology to disrupt because cybersecurity was pretty simple in the beginning. And I think that's a good place to start the story. Is when I started out, the year was 2001. I was straight out of school, and when I started at my first solution provider reseller company, and I remember starting on the job that first day, and a couple of senior reps got together with me, and they said, "Hey, it's really too bad you missed the boat." And I said, "Well, what do you mean? I just started. I just got here. It's my first day." They said, "Yeah, but Y2K already happened, the year 2000. Everybody already bought everything they needed.
There's nothing to sell.
Yeah, they bought all the new technology. There's nothing left to sell them. The budgets are gone." They said, "You joined at the worst possible time." I was like, "Oh, really? Oh no, this doesn't sound good at all." But I was very fortunate because the reseller solution provider that I started working on, it's a company that doesn't exist anymore, but it was called Metacom. And the owners of the company had said, "You know what? We have an IT solution provider reseller company, but we think that the future is going to be in security. We think that this is something we need to get into. And so, hey, here's this new person, Michael Brameld. Why don't you help us out in this area?" And at the beginning, I was just an inside salesperson, but they said, "We want you to do prospecting. We want you to learn, and we're going to build this new division in our company focused on security." You got to remember, at that point in time, we only really had three products to sell for security:
Firewalls,
Checkpoint,
antivirus.
McAfee antivirus, and RSA tokens. Okay, so that was all we had to sell. And we were going to all the companies saying, "Hey, listen, like, we can sell you these products, we can help implement them, we can help install them." And even at that point in time, it still was surprising to me, looking back on it all these years later, that there was still companies who were like, "I don't know antivirus, I don't think we need it." Like, and so, you fast forward through time, that went from three products to sell to now, if you talk with any solution provider that's in that space, they probably have 100
At least.
cybersecurity
Yeah.
products that they're selling. And that's not because that's all that there is. That's just because that's probably the limit of what they can possibly sell.
Yeah, and there's around 4,000 different companies. Like I had an episode number 10 with Richard. We spoke about the number of companies. If nobody watched it, I suggest watch it as well. But the traditional enterprise also has from 60 to 150 different products under the umbrella.
Yeah, and that's an interesting iteration too, because we kind of see that. I'll say that it's going in waves. And what I mean by that is, as new challenges present themselves, new regulatory bodies come out and announce new standards. There's new policies that come out to guide the framework, and they're going to have to buy additional pieces of technology to help them mitigate the risk, to help them achieve their compliance goals, to help them meet those regulatory requirements. So what you see is companies buying more and more tools. And then usually what happens is a second wave, which is coming, not really disrupting, but really changing the way, and it's consolidation, right? So in the beginning, we said, okay, well, you're going to need an antivirus product, you're going to need a decryption product, you're going to need an anti-spam product, you're going to need a malware product.
And just happened something with Mikey. Mikey got disconnected. I'm not sure why. Let me just double check. One second. Okay.
Oh, now
Something happened. Yeah, you were talking about the antivirus, and I think the big brother was afraid and disconnected here. Yeah.
But then what you see eventually, what happens is, you had some of those leading antivirus companies say, you know what, we can do all of that on one platform. You mentioned Palo Alto Networks. The foundation of the company was the next generation firewall. The idea at that time was several different pieces. Being able to do layer 7 inspection, being able to do single pass architecture, yes. But from a more basic standpoint, really what it was doing was taking multiple pieces of technology and saying, you don't need to buy multiple products anymore. You were buying a product for URL filtering, you were buying a product to do intrusion prevention, you're buying a product to do firewall. Now we can consolidate that down to one product, do it faster, better, more efficiently. So I think there's those two waves of iteration. There's that first wave where brand new tech comes, and there's a second wave that comes where it says, okay, let's consolidate that down and make it easier for customers.
So you sound like an engineer right now. I'm sure in the beginning of the career, you were like staying away from, okay, I'm a salesperson, I'm not really technical one. Let me do my stuff. Let me do these different things. So maybe tell us a bit more about your journey, how you became a bit more technical, how you became comfortable with the acronyms. And we have a question as well. Okay, let's answer the questions and go there. So okay. Jessica is asking, how has the customer core changed over the years? Do you still have to teach them what they need, or they need more or less up to date on what they want? So basically, do you kind of teach them what they need to buy, or they know and telling you, yeah, we wanted this, and this? This is a good question.
Yeah.
And everybody here that listening and watching, feel free to ask more questions as well.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks, Jessica, for the question and for interacting with us in this live format. I'll make a couple observations. It's interesting because it kind of dovetails into what Evgeny was asking about earlier. So yeah, just so that everybody's clear, I am not technical. I'm definitely on the sales side of the business. I have a technical partner, and I'm sure he's chuckling a little bit, probably saying Mike's not technical, because he's very technical. He's absolutely brilliant, and I'm grateful to have him. His name is Eric Partington. And but how this relates back to the question, how has things changed over the years? So first of all, I never make the assumption that I know more than what my customers know. My customers are absolutely brilliant. They're very, very good at their jobs. But I think a couple things. Number one is that the industry is changing every day. The technology and the products and the abilities of these new technologies are changing every day. So customers know generally the problems. They know their environment. They know the technology that will work. But I think part of our role is bringing to them what's new, a new idea, a new piece of information, a new piece of technology. And that's the piece where it's to say, that's not something that I know because that I've learned more. It's just because it's new and I learned it first. And so now I'm going and disseminating that information to my customers and sharing with them. So I think in terms of teaching our customers, that's what it is bringing something new. And a lot of the time in my role as a salesperson, that's bringing in experts. That's bringing in people from my company who worked on the product development teams, that worked on the teams that are actually bringing those new technologies to market. And I'm bringing those experts to help us position that for the customer, and then show them how that'll fit within their environment and how that'll address some of their requirements. So a lot of times it's matchmaking, I like to say. So it's understanding the problem and then saying, okay, did you know that matches up to a piece of technology that we can offer? We have a solution that matches up with the current challenge that you're facing. So a lot of times customers are very well educated on the problem that they have, but maybe they haven't seen a new piece of technology that we have to help them solve it.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Do you feel so you started as a salesperson, you stay as a salesperson, you adopted and learned a lot of acronyms and technology as well. And I'm wondering, like, two things. If somebody wants to get to the sales career, follow you, like when we 1 or 2 advices. And then the next question is, how's the interaction with the customer change? Because the customers now know everything.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess the first piece is about, starting in this industry. So a couple observations that I'll make here, and again, these are just only based on my own life experience. So, there's no right or wrong path here. It's just only based on my life experience. I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to start in a solution provider role. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the solution provider role is that you work with all the different pieces of technology in the industry. So Evgeny and I worked for quite a while at a great company called Herchevek Group. Really enjoyed our time there. And one of the things that I learned so much from Herchevek Group is we were having so many different technologies that we could talk to customers about. So this gave us a very broad spectrum to learn all these different areas. We talk about network security, we talk about cloud security, identity and access management, data center security, SIM technologies. And so what this allowed, gave me the privilege to do is to figure out, what am I most interested in? What are the pieces that I enjoy, that appeal to me? What are the pieces that are not as interesting to me? So that when I had that chance to take the next step in my career and join Palo Alto Networks, I said, what, that's a company that I really enjoy, because I was able to compare it to so many other pieces of technology that I had seen over the years. And it was a very good fit for my personality, for my core values and what I was interested in. So I think starting in a role where you can get exposed to a broad spectrum is great. So definitely the reseller solution provider role is a great place to start. And what I also like about that, and what worked out well for me, is you can start in an earlier in career role where you have the opportunity to do like inside sales roles, a lot of calling, booking meetings, where you don't have to be an expert on the technology. Eventually, you can move into a more direct account supporting role, like an account management role. Now you're learning a little bit more. And so it helps you to progress with your career. And I think that solution provider roles do a great job of that.
You mentioned cold calling, or calling in general. I added the cold calling. Is the cold calling still exists? Is the way people interact with customer change?
Yeah, I think it has changed. So the general idea is still there, right? At the end of the day, as a salesperson, I always have to be reaching out to new customers, or in my case, I have a number of customers that I'm already working with, but I always have to be reaching out and building relationships with new people and new departments within those organizations that we haven't worked with. That part hasn't changed. So that idea, the basic framework of what we're trying to do, has always been there from a sales perspective. I think what has changed is some of the tools that we're using. So in the past, where maybe it was 90% phone to do that and 10% other tools, I'm finding now that that has completely shifted, and maybe only 10% phone calls and 90% utilizing other tools. That includes LinkedIn, that includes email. But probably the most powerful part within that is, and I'll refer to kind of a cybersecurity idea concept. When people are hacking in, one of the things that they like to do is find a jump point, right? Find a way that they can get into the network with one exposed system, and then from that exposed system, jump to other pieces. Okay, so just using that same idea in sales, we're doing the same thing. It's not nefarious in any way, but it's if you can build a relationship with one person, build trust, establish credibility, and show them that you're a good partner, then probably that one person will introduce you to somebody, or at least sponsor you into another person to say, hey, listen, I worked with this company and this person. I trust them. They do a great job. And I think you should meet with them because they have some things that would help your department as well. That's probably the most important thing we can do in sales: establish credibility with one area and then build upon a foundation of trust.
You just described lateral movement in the sales world. It's very, very interesting. I think you should write a blog about it. Let's compare how. This is quite cool. So what I want to do, first of all, I want to say, put the link here as well, that there are going to be the subscription to the podcast that I'm running. One is Security Architecture with Dmitry Reitman, and the second one is Cyber Inspiration. And I also post here all the events for the next week, or for the live shows as well. I didn't post them there yet, but I will do it later on today. So if you want to join Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we have a lot of cool speakers next week there as well. And I guess it's time for me to share about my experiences on how I started, and then we can compare notes maybe between you and me.
Yeah.
So I started in the Navy in Israel, did 5 years there. Less cyber, more network, computers, Linux, a lot of foundation. I am a big believer of foundation. The more fundamental things you know, later on it's going to be much easier for you to move on up to the stack. You can always learn UI and move buttons, but if you don't understand what's happening under the button, then it's going to be very hard for you to progress. And eventually you need to troubleshoot stuff, because the nature of our work is stuff breakdown, and we need to fix them and figure out. And For good and for bad. It just this is the way it is.
Yeah.
After that, I spent 2 years in Checkpoint, Israeli company for firewalls for QA, and this is where I learned cybersecurity and I learned how to debug firewalls, how to understand deep packet inspection, how protocols works. Very very eye-opening and very very interesting work. Moved to Canada, joined Herjavec Group as a SC,
That's
and
when you
then
met.
literally a couple of months after, Herjavec acquired or joined with Metacom, and we started to work together.
Yeah.
And I moved on the latter to start managing the team of professional services people, basically people that going deploying firewalls, installing, upgrading, and helping customers. During this time, it was in a way I was joking that I'm a senior checkpoint engineer because I was the only one. But it was kind of funny because you do the pre-sales, you do the post-sales, you do the project management, and then you realize, oh, it's actually not supposed to do all this. There's different people that can help you to do the job better.
Yeah.
So we grew, became bigger. We had dedicated project management, amazing people that we are still friends with many of them right now. We had a kind of dedicated, semi-dedicated pre-sales team. We worked together a lot. And then the professional services team became bigger as well. We started to not just send emails to people on what we do, we started to send SOWs, like scope of work, with explanation exactly what we're doing and not doing. So it's a bit of politics, but necessary politics, because we needed to understand what the customer expect and what the customer want to do and make sure we deliver it to them and they're happy, and not just kind of shake hands and do the work and hope they will be happy. With time, I managed multiple teams in professional services, endpoint security, network security, same. Kind of jump to architecture because I need to install a very interesting product for one very interesting customer. So I ran a team of people. We did it for almost like a year. It was a very challenging project, but it definitely moved me on to architecture. And this is the place where I realized if we just sell a piece of technology, it will not be enough. We need to figure out how this piece of technology will interact with the rest of the network or the rest of the environment. And as I mentioned, many big enterprises have a lot of vendors, 100, 150. I got very fascinated about connecting the dots, about integration between technologies. And for the last 7 years in Herjavec Group, this is what I did. I did a lot of pre-sales, a lot of architecture work, explain to the customers how everything will work together. During this time, I realized that there are still customers that buying solutions. We call them shelfware, and that they stay on the shelf.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I started security architecture with Dimitri, to help customers not to do this, to actually implement it correctly. And right now, a lot of the chat going on, which product should I buy? Is the best of breed or the best there? Like, no, this is not how it goes. You need to buy the product or the software that interact and will able to connect with the rest of your environment. So it's very, very subjective. And as we say in the industry, it depends.
Yes.
So not just buy stuff because it's cool, or because just Gartner say this. Even so, I respect Gartner a lot, and they bring in a lot of good points. But you still need to understand how well it will work with the rest of the environment. Long story short, I'm right now running by myself, supporting vendors and MSSPs. I have 2 podcasts doing the live show for the month of October, and it's quite interesting, challenging, and altogether quite interesting.
Yeah.
This is kind of about me. Let's talk about the communication between the engineers and sales, because it's almost like a family, almost like a marriage in a way, because you spend so much time together and you need to understand how to help each other, how not to kind of stay in a way of other person as well.
Yeah, such a great point. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm very, very grateful and privileged to have an amazing technical partner that I work with. You were often my technical partner in our previous careers, and so I was always very grateful to work with you because we had a great partnership. I have a great partnership with my technical partner now. As I mentioned, his name is Eric, and I think at a high level, the best way that partnership works is when each person knows their role very well, so that I don't have to ask Eric, hey, can you do this? Or he asks me, hey, can you do this? Because we know That's for Mike. That's for Eric. We know that our areas of what we call core competencies. We know our areas of strengths. We know our areas of weaknesses, so we can support each other. But the other piece is having a common goal. And I think that works whether you have a team of 2 or whether you have a team of 200, if you have the same goal. So do what's right for the customer, do what's right for our company. And if we're moving those two things in the same direction, it's going to move us towards our goals. So we have a shared same goal. We have shared team quota, team number. And if we have the same values at the core of what we're doing, we're always going to be able to make the right decisions that move us in the right direction.
Yeah, this is a very good and simple way to explain this. I'll add to this that there's some kind of guidelines in my mind. And for me, are the technical person on the team will basically pause and say, hey, if you want pricing and how much it costs, go talk to the salesperson. Doesn't matter if they have the pricing, if they know everything. This is the time when 90% of the time they say, I know I have this, but let's say Mike is responsible. Please talk to Mike. This way, we have a clear kind of separation on this part. On the other side, the salesperson may be able to answer some high-level stuff, but the moment it's going a bit deeper, they're supposed to say, I have all the documents, but I'm not exactly sure what was the communication before with my sales engineer. I'll bring him. He will answer anything you need. And if we're missing anything, we'll find the right people to bring all the answers to you. So I think in my mind, it's an important separation to have, to not kind of go deeper in the rabbit hole and create problems.
Yep. And it's exactly what you said. It's not to say that one side, couldn't do it. It's to say, well, this is my area of core competency. This is my area of strength. And so this is the best person to answer that question. And one of the things I love is I love being in a meeting with my partner where we're talking and a customer asks a question and right away, my partner knows that that's a question for him to answer. He's the best person to answer it. So I don't have to say, oh, let me turn it over to Eric. Like he knows. And same thing on my side when and we do all of our meetings together and all of our customer interactions together, because there are pieces. Inevitably, even if it's a completely technical meeting, there'll be some part where somebody asks a question and Eric knows, okay, that's probably a better question for Mike. And all the time, I know there's questions that are better for him to answer. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. It's definitely a 50-50 relationship. I cannot be successful. I cannot do my job without my partner. And same thing on his side. Like we need both of us together to achieve our goals and provide the best possible support for our customers.
Great. Important point. Nice. Mike, anything else you want to add?
I think the last point I'll leave you with is this. You and I have been in this industry a long time, and the more things change, the more things stay the same. I had the chance to attend a session a while back at a conference, and Department of Homeland Security was presenting, and they said, listen, as Department of Homeland Security, they see all the breaches, all the attacks for the entire United States. So, that's millions and millions of attacks. And what they said is, you know what? There's, like you said, there's 4,000 cybersecurity companies. There's a million different products you can buy. Billions are being spent. But at the end of the day, like 80% of the breaches comes down to 3 things: patch your systems, 2-factor authentication, remove administrator privileges. If companies just did those 3 things, like 80% of cybersecurity issues would be mitigated. That was a point that really resonated to me, and I'll always remember it, is to say, as time changes and we get more and more technologies and things get more and more complicated, we can't lose sight of the basic principles of building a strong foundation. And I mentioned that earlier about how you build a foundation with your customers, how you build a foundation in your career. I'll leave that as my thought. Again, not being a technical person, but it really resonated with me. The same, when you're building a cybersecurity infrastructure for your business, make sure you're looking at those basics. If you spend a tremendous amount of money on the most advanced pieces of technology to block these very niche threats, it's good, but it's not good if you didn't build the foundation and block the big part at the bottom.
So basically, if you're saying, if I want to create a toolkit to build a house, I'm probably going to buy a hammer and a saw and a knife and a screwdriver first before I'm going to go buy something fancy with like a laser management, something like this.
Yes, exactly.
We have a question from Dawn here. Now on the manufacturer side, with Palo Alto, what do you look for the VARs that you partnered with? Do you feel that previously having worked at the VAR side gives you a different perspective? Oh, I'm sure, definitely. Mike, if you need to partner with the VAR, what is the kind of blind dating questions you're asking them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Dan, thanks very much for the question. Really appreciate you attending our chat today and interacting with us. Thank you so much. So first of all, yes, having a background coming from a solution provider definitely gives me a different perspective on the value and all the hard work that our partners do. I'm very grateful for the partners that I'm working with. So absolutely, it gains me that additional perspective. What we're looking for. If we look at that term for VAR, for maybe some people who aren't familiar with that term, it stands for value added reseller. So what we have is a reseller. The basic idea is manufacturers make the products, customers use the products, and in between you have a reseller. They're responsible for selling those products to those customers. So number one thing we're looking for in the value piece is what are they adding above and beyond the product? Because our company's making the product, so you don't make the product. What can you add in addition to that? So common things, relationship with the customer, understanding of their business. So that not only means understanding of their environment and what's the best technology to recommend in there, but also how does their business process work? How do their budgets work? How does their procurement process work? So knowledge about how that customer works, a relationship of trust and understanding with the customer so that when they come in, they can say, listen, you trust us. We've delivered valuable solutions for you before. You know that we have your best interests at heart here. So when they recommend a new technology, it's not just because, hey, we heard about a new buzzword. It's because, hey, we know that you have a problem and this technology would be great for you to look at to help solve it. And lastly, bring information to the table that both parties don't have. So the value to the customer is that the reseller can say, hey, listen, there's something new out there. There's something new we've seen, or a project we did for another customer that was very successful, and I want to share that with you. So that's information the customer didn't have. And for myself on the manufacturer side, it's being able to say, hey, listen, here's somebody that you've never met before, and I understand that they have a new requirement that I think your technology would be a good fit for. Let me introduce you because we have, again, established that relationship of trust, and they can bring something to me that I didn't know about. So if I had to narrow it down to three things, Dan, that's what I'd give you.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you very much. And then thank you for your question. Everyone, have an amazing weekend. We're gonna come back here on Monday. Marina Segal, we're gonna be here talking about cloud and different protections for cloud as well. Mike, thank you very much for being here.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.